Yeah.
Who wants to introduce the episode?
I'm not on
I don't even know what we're doing.
Just
So
introduce.
stop sniffing glue long enough to tell people what's going on.
Just introduce the podcast and everyone, and then I'll
Calming down? That's good.
get into the boring.
Greetings and salutations, listener.
Is mine not?
Oh, we don't have any listeners anymore.
Kevin. Greetings and salutations. Kevin.
Now it's potential listener.
Greetings and salutations, someday Matt Damon.
No. Come on. Go.
This is episode number 170.
We can dream.
I don't know what number it
Is
is.
this turned up low?
173.
Okay, this is episode 173.
74. You're close.
Alright. Of talking over albums. Obscured by cloud.
You know, all I can hear is you huffing and puffing. Why don't you go lay
Talking
down?
over dog panting.
There's
Is
a new
this-
dog in the house. We're here at the Kinnear's Lounge, which is now just a dog lounge.
I don't really hear stuff.
Did they have
We have
one?
Billie Eilish and Ziggy Stardust. Nathan, Brett, Jason, and Chris.
Woo!
Yep. Yeah, you're doing Pink Floyd.
Sweet.
Everybody's favorite band.
I should get a pillow.
I need to vape.
Totally gonna fall asleep.
What do you need?
Yeah, Pink Floyd. The end. Thanks for listening.
Did you say you need a pen?
Vapo.
Oh, Vaporub is...
Well, excuse the out of me.
Pardon me, I know exactly where it is.
I rub it on my balls.
It's hiding right over here.
It's my back balm.
I got your Vaporub. I like
Now I'm
this.
ready. All right, energized.
This smells like men's cologne.
Ooh,
You're the one that bought it.
smells like Joanna for some reason.
You should not tell her that. Warm cashmere and woods.
You smell like the mossy oak.
I've got my "Wish You Were Here" shirt on.
Beautiful.
We're not doing that album.
Oh, this sounds like the soundtrack to a really sci-fi movie.
This is on the demo for a new keyboard.
Yeah, like
Logan's Run.
Logan's Run is a really good movie.
I do like Logan's Run, and Brett doesn't.
I hate clean sci-fi. Like clean-looking
You
futures.
don't like false utopias.
So the island is on the list?
You like dystopias.
No, yeah.
But THX 138.
Well, Barbarella is like a false utopia, kind of. I like that
I
movie.
think I like those better than just straight up Mad Max. I mean, that gets kind of old. Just
I don't, because
spikes on
they
your
all
cars,
just
fighting.
It's starting to look a little too real these days.
they all just look like the 70s.
Yeah.
The dystopian
Oh.
future sci-fi is just
That's
a little
true.
too close to home for me right now.
You like
Sci-fi
that?
in the 70s,
Yeah,
there was a
all that
whole
good
lot of it that was just, it just kind of looked like the 70s. Like Brett said, it was kind of like, they didn't even try.
There's
What's going to
60s.
happen in the future? We're going to have more plastic?
The 60s will last forever. I like 60s sci-fi designs. Pretty cool.
That's always a problem I have with 2001. I mean, it's damn near perfect and I love it, but like the whole section when Haywood Floyd is going to the moon or wherever the hell he's going, like that's so sick, like late 60s. It just has not aged. Like the whole rest of the movie is timeless, like visually timeless, but just like that or I guess kind of beginning section of the movie just looks like the 60s in space. It's not okay.
Is this the perfect album to talk over?
Yeah, because it's sleepy
It's the soundtrack to
Floyd
this.
soundtrack bull.
I don't feel any need to fast forward
Okay,
through
what's
or
going on?
anything.
Do they sing or?
Yeah, there's proper songs in here. So I guess I get into like my thesis, because I've always wondered where the hell did
This is comfortable.
where the hell did the jump in creativity come from? Because they were just sort of adrift for 4 albums.
They get a better drug hookup all of a sudden.
Maybe.
And recording production quality. What year was this? I mean, that one took a huge leap with the late 60s, early 70s.
72.
You get in the right recording studio, it gets crazy good. Like, what was that recording studio that Stevie Wonder always recorded at? It's like his quality went from, hi, to, like really deep, rich sounds. It's like, all it is like a little tinny thing to, holy crap, you can make this kind of sound?
Yeah, I think around, maybe some of it had to do with Dark Side of the Moon, but yeah, right around 73 is when you started getting like a more richer, creamier studio sound from a lot of bands.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's like Dark Side of the Moon. Yeah, I think if you put that on, I go right to sleep, because that's what my dad would put on when he wanted us to calm it down, because he was watching us while my mom was out, and that was his thing. It's like, fill us full of Ritz crackers and cheese and put on Dark Side of the Moon, and like watch us just pass out on the floor.
Yeah, I kind of considered doing a twofer and then doing Dark Side of the Moon. Then I realized there's really nothing to talk about with Dark Side of the Moon anymore. It's like been discussed ad nauseum. So you can use this as it. You can talk about it if you want. We're never going to do it.
Unseen Side of the Moon would have been a better one.
The horny side of the moon.
Just puts me to sleep. I'm not exactly sure if I've ever heard the second side of Dark Side of the Moon.
Oh.
Maybe on the radio, but not listening to it straight through. I'm just.
I'm not going to say
He had
titles.
all of them. He
It's
just
irrelevant.
listened to
They're all
Led
instrumental.
Zeppelin 2 was his jam. That was his life-changing album, I guess.
Can you turn this up a bit in a single person's headphones? That's probably impossible, right? It's just not very loud to me.
Ooh,
But I don't want to deafen anybody else, because I can't turn mine on my headphones.
So
No, Nathan, we're all here to serve you. Just kidding. But I will give you whatever you want. I don't care. Mikasa is Sukasa. Do you need some toilet paper? Some paper towels, maybe.
my theory is that after Syd Barrett left, the band just had a ton of rehearsal time. Like, all of these albums were just practice for Dark Side of the Moon. And Dark Side had the benefit of being written and rehearsed for like 6 months before they actually recorded it. So,
Wow.
Actually, I have a question about that. Syd Barrett, were they like... Was there like an album, like a record company that was like investing in them and stuff, or were they? Because some bands were like developed, some bands were just good from the get go. I was just wondering, was Pink Floyd one of those that was just selling well right off the bat, or were they like one of those bands that
well,
they expected it to take a few albums to catch on or something?
I think their singles with Syd Barrett did well enough that they sold. But then
I just wondered if you knew.
after that, not really, until Dark Side of the Moon.
It's like I have the vague memory of that's one of the albums my dad had was Metal. But then, like I said, I'm of that age where my dad would totally be like in that sweet spot in the 70s when it started getting all artistic and like you could make all the sounds in the studio, you know? Like now you do it on your computer, but then it was like really cool that, you know what we can do? We can overlay this. Ooh.
Yeah.
I have a weird tidbit about that has nothing to do with this, but we were just talking about recording studios, and my uncle, who had numerous bands in the 80s and 90s. What the?
I know. Do we need to pause?
Nah. I've cleaned towels. They're all folded downstairs.
Okay, let me take care of this first.
But
No, one.
so,
Good Christ.
because they still had songs. If soundtrack era Floyd was nothing
Why
but
didn't I soak this up with something? What soaks in too much? Should I get something?
I'll get it.
Just don't want
I'll just talk to the microphone. It's
go on.
like, it's not like any of these middle period albums are that different from Dark Side of the Moon. It's just on Dark Side of the Moon they figured out dynamics in songwriting. Like, like peaks and valleys and contrast and how to build up to things. So it just feels like the ingredients were always there, but they found a central point to their songwriting finally, to where you can go off into spacey exploration but always come back to a focal point
of despair.
Yeah. But I still just don't really understand where the jump in creativity came from, because the only things close are just those 3 tracks from
I just see
Metal.
all their lyrics, put all their lyrics together, and just watch how sad he becomes. See where that happened. This is where he discovered how f***ed up the world was. Because he didn't know before. Maybe that happened. That just happens to people randomly throughout their lives.
Well, Roger Waters says in an interview, like a couple different times in different interviews, that it was when he came to the realization that life doesn't begin at some point. I think everyone kind of has that realization, or like waiting for life to begin, that somehow that correlated. Dark Side of the Moon for him was, you can just, like, life is always happening. It's not like when this and when X, Y, and Z happens, and how some people wait their entire life for like these certain things to fall into place before then they'll start living, type of thing.
Pardon my absence. I'm back.
I don't know. I just assume someone else would find it interesting, just the sheer contrast between this and Dark Side. Like, I don't know.
I just came in, put my headphones back on, and I was like, I thought you weren't listening to Dark Side of the Moon.
And I think some of it is like they just woke up as a band because they just drifted too much. Like I don't really like space rock that much. I know that's hard to believe, but like they just sort of drifted aimlessly. And I think at some point they got bored and were like, okay, like Dark Side of the Moon still has the balloony feel, but there's like a weight attached to that balloon in Dark Side. Like here, it's just drifting aimlessly.
I got it.
And in Dark Side, they learned how to harness that floating, freeform beauty, but give it some balls, I guess.
Direction.
Yeah. Like it always comes back to a central theme, either musically or lyrically.
You're gonna stay right here.
I get it. This sounds meandering.
I mean, this is just generic. And
I'll bet my brother loved this album.
I mean,
Maybe that's our listener.
Dark Side of the Moon starts off with like a not instrument. It's just like this clicking cash register sound, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
It's cool. That's art. This is not anything to do with art. This is like, hey guys, let's do these things for some movie. We'll get paid so we can put this money into our album.
Yeah, into our real work.
But yeah, what's interesting too, that would have been kind of a cool episode to do, is the early performances of Dark Side of the Moon. Like how the songs weren't completely fleshed out yet, so a lot of them still kind of had the same quality as this in albums before. Yeah, where it's more airy, they're not as punchy, don't have like the same highlighted crescendos. And it's more dreamy and less sinister. So yeah, it's still kind of in the middling stoner rock thing in those early performances. Like the basic songwriting is really good, but it still kind of drifts. So I think we need to talk about Alan Parsons.
Who's Alan Parsons?
He was a wonderful producer.
The magic of Alan Parsons.
Was he the George, what's his face of this band?
The Parsons Project.
And his various projects.
I am the eye in the sky.
Piss on it, okay?
Don't answer me.
But
don't break the silence.
So I think it was a combination of.
Oh, am I singing to
Well,
you?
Alan Parsons was just the engineer. I don't think he did like real producer duties, but I think it was a combination of him and just having a shit ton of time to get the album in front of an audience.
Why did they have 9 months to record and then all that time to practice before they really got it out there?
Because it was just going to be like a suite of songs that they were going to incorporate into an album they'd already put out. So it was just something to add to the live show, and then it evolved into its own thing. But
okay.
So yeah, I think it's like, I don't know, in every Beatles book I've read about when they're in Hamburg, there would be like this German expression called like Machschau, which means like more show, which means like more, like more energy. So I think when you play the same thing over and over again, you get bored with a flatness to it, and you learn to incorporate dynamics.
Rammstein.
Yeah.
More cowbell.
So
Put more Rammstein in it.
So I think if they didn't have time to do Dark Side of the Moon in public, it would be just it would still be a like well-regarded album, but it wouldn't be anything mind-blowing. It would just be like their best album up to that point. That's my theory, but yeah, what other fucking notes? Oh, rhythmical complexity. Like they suddenly found rhythm. Where it's
Is
not
Gilmore
just,
the guitarist, by the way? I don't remember.
It's unfair though, rhythmical stuff. If this is a soundtrack, you're not supposed to be
Like Roger Waters wrote a lot of lyrics later.
But all this era stuff sounds like this, though.
He's the one with the daddy issues.
God, you're so soft. You're like a giant bunny. A giant chinchilla.
It's a giant bunny that's gonna lick you right in your mouth if you open it.
all musicians got better because I mean, there's some bands that just did crazy rhythmical stuff, and you don't want to look embarrassed like you couldn't do it. And you had to try.
But
these prog rock bands.
This sounds very Eric Clapton-y.
I just can't think of another band with a bigger.
This solo was very
quality.
Eric Clapton-y. And then it immediately turns into what you were talking about, that
The airy.
this sounds like Pink Floyd.
The organ.
It sounds like somebody ripping off Pink Floyd.
Right, that's not people singing an awe sound, that's an organ. But it came in like it was people.
Yeah, kind of.
Just the biggest sonic differences where they kind of sped everything up like 20% and let Nick Mason drum, because he just kind of plods along in most of this era of Pink Floyd. Yeah, so I don't like this era.
I'm sorry,
of
but
Floyd, like
the soloing is like not mature yet. That guitar is like I hear it, and it's like what Brent was saying. It's like something's not quite there.
Yeah,
it's there later.
But I think there's nothing to put a good solo into. Like it's mostly just like the melodic flow of the song isn't interesting enough to construct a good solo. I mean, he could do something like technical wizardry.
I will agree with you that could totally be a thing, because what do I know? But
Shuri probably got better too.
But yeah, there's like a lack of experience to some things that makes some things really good. Like some rock albums are awesome, like their first album, because it's almost every song was played and played and played over and over and over again every chance they got. And so when they go into the studio, there isn't really much left to do. And then the second album comes along. If you make a hit and they want a second album, then about half the songs on that album you already had. They were the ones that didn't make the first album. So you only need about a half album's worth of new material. And that's why they always say the sophomore slump.
Yeah, ooh, Modelo. Fancy.
Yeah, that's Chris beer.
I found a fancy bear.
Just judging from the personalities of Pink Floyd, like Roger Waters is super mousy, David Gilmour is like
You can just push him down. Yes.
like they're a whole band of introverts. So I think
You're not getting the hint here.
I think they just kind of
Don't do that.
I don't know. I think something just
go lay down.
some spark of inspiration came along to give them permission to rock and to be more theatrical. Because I think they were. So I think for like 4 albums they were just content with, yeah, we're the stoner space rock band. It's fine.
God, this sounds so much like a ripoff of Dark Side of the Moon, right? Doesn't it? It just like
It's kind of like Time.
So-
boom, 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 boom.
If you apply Occam's razor, simplest explanation.
They sold their soul to
I've
the
just
devil.
written so much stuff
That's the simplest.
over such a long period of time on a piano, and I have just picked out little pieces everywhere and put them in a different place. Just years later, I never knew when people.
Chris, you better
I
move
never
your
know when a
beer.
musician might write his stuff. If he records at a certain time, it has nothing to do with when he wrote it, when he was messing around with it first. So they could just be saving their best stuff all the time. Like, that sounds crazy. Let's save that for this thing we're going to do later.
Yeah, because Us and Them came from like a soundtrack piano piece from like 3 years earlier, I think. So, yeah.
But he's definitely got styles that are very obvious. Sounds like them.
So if you do enough crap, eventually you can just compile your own greatest hits.
And this album was all like, so for this song, for this part of the movie, we need this, and they're like, hey, let's pick from this and like make a version of that we've already written. That's how you do it. Like, soundtrack is like that. You just pull from things. It's really just, you're not trying to be the art.
You sort of plagiarize yourself.
Trying to go along with them.
Yeah, well, that's, you know what? That goes along with what I was just thinking.
You don't want to be too interesting, really.
If you listen to it, it's kind of like...
distracting from the...
They plagiarize themselves. I love that. Awesome. They plagiarize themselves. Yeah. Because that's a great way to describe it.
Well, I mean, if you really want to go there, the whole second half of Metal Echoes is like the whole prototype for Dark Side of the Moon. Like, you can hear threads of like half the songs in just that one song. So.
They just did enough of the same thing until they got randomly lucky with, these all sound really cool. Do the same thing a bunch of different ways, and eventually we'll just win the lottery.
You're saying
one of them's gonna be gold, man.
You're saying Dark Side was just the monkeys at the typewriter?
Yes.
I don't want to look it up because
heresy.
It ruins the whole idea. But it's funny how, like, Syd Barrett leaves Pink Floyd, right? And then they have to figure out what they're going to be. And then later on, Roger Waters leaves, right?
Can't hear anything.
And then they come out again. You know what I mean?
No.
Say it again?
Wasn't listening. Nathan was having technical problems.
Back to the
momentary
monkeys
lapse
with
of
the
reason was
typewriters thing.
Just to get on the radio, it sounded like to me.
I don't believe that if you leave people in a room or monkeys in a room, they'll eventually write Shakespeare. But what I do think is that the stars can align just right sometimes. I mean, if you keep doing what you're doing, she's over there. If you keep doing what you're doing long enough, it's not just a matter of practice makes perfect, but there's another element to it it's not luck exactly, and it's got nothing to do with
10,000 hours.
I guess, but I mean, you still have to have the stars aligned. The right person needs to come in contact with you. Yeah, so you tell her. So that you get the right producer and the right combination of people. All of those things have to come.
Yeah, I mean
together.
Everyone is known by millions of people.
Yeah, the timing.
They just won the lottery.
The timing is as much as anything.
What if Jesus is the secret ingredient?
Well, I mean, sometimes Jesus is the secret. Jesus.
And also, just what's strange to me is, like I already said, they were at their creative peak here, but there was nothing else in the creative reservoir at that moment. Like, this is the best they could come up with while they were making the greatest
they were
album of all time.
What's the name of this song we're listening to right now?
Free for.
This sounds like a complete rip-off of some other 60s band.
What is that?
I can't quite... Like Grateful Dead, but not quite. There's some band that this sounds like a total, like...
No. Spirit in the Sky.
Yeah.
Bomb.
I was thinking that exact thing. I think that's what they're doing on this.
I actually thought
this is
the band that does that.
Yeah, a song like that one.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm not crazy.
No, I was thinking that exact thing.
Yeah, just keep scooting back. She'll leave. There you go. She's like, well, I will share. I have taken over your country.
Yeah.
But I will share.
My whole plan is to share.
There you go. Good boy.
Oh,
good girl. Yeah, good boy. Assert your power. She needs to know.
Thank you for putting up with that, Ziggy. You did a good job.
She's actually
over here.
She's actually quite adept at when you claim your space. She understands it at least.
If I had a blindfold on, I wouldn't even know this wasn't Ziggy. Except for, if I had gloves on as well. But...
Condoms on your fingers. I wouldn't tell them apart if you put lead gloves on me.
I got a new girlfriend.
Yeah. She's not going to try and hump you.
Don't speak so soon.
Alright, so I've run out of things I know about Pink Floyd. How much longer is this?
You went too fast, Brett. You brought up too many talking.
Wow, how many times have I heard somebody rip this thing off?
Yeah,
Like,
Black Keys based their entire catalog off that last fucking song.
Okay. I need you guys to help me understand why that really weird Baltimore guy is involved with Pink Floyd. Roger Waters. Isn't that the movie guy?
That's Jon Waters.
Okay. Thank
Jesus
you.
Christ.
Every time you
Thanks,
say
folks.
Every time you say Mr. Waters, I'm picturing him and going, what?
And Chris just took us down to Baltimore level.
He's from Baltimore?
We've hit the level of Baltimore. Great. You know how many people know anything about anything in Baltimore? Well, I don't know. I've never been there. But
Jon
I'm gonna
Waters,
guess.
He knows all the things.
Yeah, he got the out of there the first chance he got.
No, that's Cleveland.
Well,
This song is really weird to me. It sounds like a slowed down Steely Dan song.
It's getting slower.
it's starting to sound like an early Bob Seger album.
They
I've
never
never been a huge fan of that guitar effects, that pedal, but it works out well in later.
it's used fine in like up more manic kind of up tempo music.
Yeah.
It's too bad we don't have Wyman here. I feel like he would have more to say about this.
I tried to get Brett to invite him for this.
I don't know. It's like whenever we have things, it's always like, yeah, he always has something intelligent to say. And
Like music major people.
Well, you can't count on me for intelligent conversation. I think I've proven that tonight.
That's not true.
You know, if anybody
know
needs
Pink
to know
Floyd,
about
it's not
amortizations and taxes and crap,
I forgot what Jon Waters' first name was. That would have been helpful. It makes so much more sense now.
I can't figure out why this movie director is making these albums.
I mean, he's weird, and
would've
he
been
probably
very young
smokes a lot
back
of dope like they did, so, you know. That part makes sense.
Yeah. They've never really talked about other bands in interviews, so I don't know what they thought about like Genesis or Yes or even Led Zeppelin or how they compared themselves. I think maybe they were I think they thought that their niche was okay. They had a cultivated audience, however like limited it was, but just the space rock thing was enough, and then eventually it wasn't. I don't know. I just think they didn't really, for a while there, they did not see a way of expanding their horizons, I guess.
It's probably a combination of all your theories.
Thank you. They're all correct and perfect.
They're all exactly
Wow.
right.
Hey, can you ring the filler bell on him?
Last song.
He literally just filler belled you.
I think you're right, Brad.
Didn't you
I think
say
you're
that
right
about everything?
The first couple times I listened to this album, I was like, oh, some of this is really cool, and every subsequent time it gets worse.
That seems to be your life.
I give this, like...
Diminishing returns.
He really judges art more harshly every time he hears it.
Well, this one's worse. Like, it gets exponentially worse every listen. Yep, still don't like Soundtrack Floyd. I hardly ever listen to any of these middle albums.
If it's a soundtrack, the real test would be watching the movie and seeing how it works at the movie.
I'm saying we should
Only
100%
real
just
test.
start watching that now.
Is it on YouTube?
Did they just try and make it sound like people again?
Yeah.
My last theory, before I cancel the podcast,
Again.
Jesus.
I think what they really wanted to do here, they wanted to be ambient artists, but that's hard to do with rock instruments. So I think if they had like...
Are you kidding? I think they did a great job of
If
that.
they had like more...
You sound like the Wall. You're not the Wall. You sound like the Wall.
If they had more sophisticated synthesizers, they would have just done like late 70s early 80s type of easy listening ambient stuff. All right, I give this album a 4.9 out of 10. Everyone give your ratings real quick so I can pee.
5 out of 5. I don't know. It's 5 out of 10.
I would not piss on this album in the house.
It's just
Okay.
there.
I think it was. This was good.
I don't even know.
It's just, it's like, I'm afraid to get deep, but I want to be deep. That's what this makes me think of. That's the thought that comes into my head when I listen to this. It's like, knowing what comes after is awesome. I'm always about context. And it's like,
What the
I
hell's
know
going on right
these
now?
guys get way better at this. You know?
Yeah, they just had to do more drugs and get weirder.
Seriously.
Like,
Y'all go listen to the very last
everything in the
bit of
whole
very
rock,
last song. It's gonna
everything in the
fuck
whole
you
rock
up.
genre is about some issue you have with one of your parents. If you go down deep enough, it's like, all right, which one did you have a problem with? Write an album about that.
I should have been a musician, man.
I'll give Floyd the benefit of the doubt and just say all these shitty albums were just a really long quiet before the storm. It was
What?
yeah.
I'm giving him 5 pinks out of 120
It was.
Floyds.
We can't blow people's minds. We have to lull them to sleep before Dark Side of the Moon.
And then they wake us
And
up.
you're like, holy shit!
Woke?
What the f?
Oh my God.
Take our money.
Nobody expects anything from us now.
So unfortunately, it is all from a bunch of super old dead white guys.